Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, COVID violations on police records. The Commissioner of Police weighs in. A patient at Sandlands Rehabilitation Center commits suicide, prompting officials to launch an investigation. Plus, a 19-year-old charged with murder.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kyle Joachim. Top of news tonight, Police Commissioner Paul Roll is responding to widespread concern about emergency order violations appearing on offenders' police records. The documents are used by Bahamians traveling to the U.S. without a U.S. visa or applying for a job. Roll said he will consult with Attorney General Carl Bethel on the matter to determine the way forward. Bertha McDermott reports.
Amid public outrage over the revelation that curfew violators will now have that breach reflected on their police records, Police Commissioner Paul Roll says it's a matter that he plans to discuss with the Attorney General. His comments come after this picture of a police record made the rounds on social media. The document says, "This is to certify the above-named individual has been convicted of a criminal offense in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas," then lists the offense. Roll says it's up to the authorities to decide if the conviction will be a civil or criminal penalty.
Prior to the change in the amendments and the emergency orders that permits police to issue tickets, those original and those initial ones of the persons who appeared before the court, those would be recorded as convictions. I had a look at that last night, and we'll be seeking guidance on that.
The matter has sparked outrage among residents who took to social media to express their concern. This resident said, "These people adding curfew breach on your police record." While this resident said, "Imagine applying for a job and then ask for a police record and they see this mess." Progressive Liberal Party Deputy Chairman Robin Lyons also weighed in, saying the enforcement of the emergency powers order has brought to the fore many of the rank practices of classism, elitism, and discrimination in the country. Roll sought to provide clarity on the matter.
The persons who receive the tickets today, they have a pay period. If they pay within that period, then there's no record. If they decide to challenge it, they go before the court and they get convicted, that is a conviction that will be recorded. That is what had taken place in the first round, okay? And I think a lot of times, places I've seen some of the comments being made in social media in ignorance.
Now, the concern for many Bahamians is that a conviction like this on their police record would prohibit them from doing things like traveling. It's a claim the police commissioner quickly shot down.
We have Bahamians travel every day who have petty convictions for minor crimes.
Persons have been brought before the courts for curfew violations, going to the water pump during lockdown, and selling coconuts without the proper documents. Roll was asked to respond to concerns that less fortunate Bahamians have been affected most by emergency orders.
Everybody have to abide by the law, whether they are underfortunate or unfortunate or overfortunate or whatever. That's the best way I think I can respond to that, sir.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bertha McDermott.
The Public Hospitals Authority confirming the death of a 52-year-old Sandlands Rehabilitation Center patient whom officials say attempted to commit suicide on Sunday. According to a statement, the woman was transported to Princess Margaret Hospital by ambulance, but was pronounced dead upon arrival. Officials did not provide the circumstances surrounding the woman's death. While amid reports of COVID-19 exposures on wards at Princess Margaret Hospital, Administrator Mary Walker explains that it will happen from time to time. She says it is a point-in-time test where the time of exposure is the main factor.
COVID-19 test, be it a PCR test or an antigen test, is a test in time.
Hospital Administrator Mary Walker explaining how it is that some patients as well as healthcare professionals are contracting COVID-19 within the public hospital. She says while all patients are tested prior to admission, one can test negative, but given the timing of their exposure and the test, they may still be COVID positive when they are placed on wards.
It is a point-in-time test. So we can test you today, and we don't know if you've previously been exposed. And so even if we test you today and you would prove to be negative, there's no guarantee that you cannot seroconvert within the time frame that you may be a person admitted to the Princess Margaret Hospital. And by that measure, for the same thing would apply for someone who is traveling.
Reports of patients, nurses, and physicians contracting coronavirus while on the wards have raised concerns for many seeking to go to the hospital for treatment. It also raised questions about whether patients are being tested before entering the hospital.
That is a part of the criteria based on the risk assessment done by the physicians when patients present at the accident emergency.
The hospital's capacity has also been a major concern for health officials, who say the hospital has been over capacity for months. Walker explained that given the assistance provided by the Samaritan's first 20-bed tent facility set up outside, as well as the drastic drop in cases, the situation is no longer as dire.
We have a dedicated unit that can house the moderate to mild cases that can accommodate approximately 23 persons. We also have the legacy unit, which is just behind you, which can then take the more moderately ill persons, and that unit can handle 8 persons. The remainder of the persons in the accommodation for the critically ill is managed at Doctors Hospital West, and they have 22 beds at that facility.
Free National Movement Torchbearers Youth Association president and son of the Attorney General, Carlisle Bethel, confirming that he was among those persons who were fined following a wedding on Friday that surpassed the number of people allowed to attend weddings during the state of emergency. Photos of the wedding went viral on social media and showed members of the bridal party not wearing masks or adhering to social distancing protocols. Commissioner of Police Paul Roll told reporters today that the necessary actions were taken.
The information was brought to my attention, and we took the necessary action in dealing with it, as we are required as law enforcement officers.
Can you speak to what that action has been?
We took the appropriate action. Persons were cited. You saw the papers this morning. I think in one of them, I'm not going to go into the details of who all were cited, but I'm saying that we took the appropriate action, and I'm satisfied with the action which my officers took.
Are you able to speak to what the cost of the site would be, what the cost of the ticket would be?
No, they're in the emergency orders. I think they said it's $200 for each ticket.
Emergency orders prohibit weddings with more than 10 people. The Office of the Prime Minister indicated on Tuesday that no special permission was granted by the competent authority for a wedding exceeding that number. Amid backlash, Bethel said he had nothing to do with the planning or execution of the wedding. He stood as a groomsman. The wedding was for a Ministry of Health communications officer. The Tribune reported that an eyewitness to the wedding called the police to report the incident, but claimed no police ever arrived. Roll hit back at those claims.
I think it's good for us to get our facts straight, because the original story, which I've seen, it started off with inaccuracies. The police received calls, and officers responded to that place, and there was nothing amiss. After the officers left, obviously things went aware, and they received a call later when I think everything was over.
The police commissioner also responded to claims that those individuals got a mere slap on the wrist.
Same slap on the wrist by who? Couldn't be me.
A heavily bandaged teenager was hauled before the magistrate's court today to face a murder charge connected to a recent stabbing incident on Joe Farrington Road. Georgia Bain has the story.
With blood-stained bandages on his head and on the left side of his face, and still wearing a hospital identification bracelet, 18-year-old Tavares Colebrook of Cool Acres had to be lifted up the stairs of the magistrate's court by officers of the Criminal Investigations Department, as he was unable to bend his own legs. Colebrook appeared before Magistrate Andrew McKinney on Wednesday to be charged with the November 5th stabbing death of 20-year-old Robinson Paul. According to police reports, shortly after 10 a.m., a group of males were at a residence on Joe Farrington Road when a male known to them walked in and produced a sharp object and stabbed one of the males several times. The suspect fled the scene on foot. The victim was taken to hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. Magistrate McKinney told Colebrook that he was not required to enter a plea to the charge and that he did not have the jurisdiction to grant him bail. Colebrook has been remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections and returns to court on February 12, 2021 for the presentation of a voluntary bill of indictment. Colebrook was not represented by a lawyer. Reporting for Our News, I'm Georgia Bain.
All right, thanks, Georgia. Well, a man is sharing the heartbreaking story of how he lost his mother, aunt, and grandfather to COVID-19. Jared Higgs reports.
38-year-old Mario Woodside is heartbroken by the heavy toll that COVID-19 has taken on his family.
In the space of less than like a month, both my mother, my aunt, and my grandfather died from COVID.
It all started in late September when Woodside's aunt, 64-year-old Margaret Stubbs, passed away suddenly from COVID-19. Her sister and Woodside's mother, Elizabeth Glinton, visited her home on the day she died to pay her respects. The next week, her health started to deteriorate.
I told her she didn't have to come in. I told her I'd bring in some vitamin C, whatever, and some breakfast, whatever. And that was the last time I spoke to my mother.
Woodside's mother died on October 9th. He says doctors told him it was due to complications from COVID-19. The grieving son described his mother as an upbeat woman who had special connections with people. Today would have been her birthday. She was found unresponsive in her home.
I was hoping she would get better. I was praying she would get better, but then that wasn't God's plan, you see. So she went to the hospital, and within the space of 2 hours, I had to come back and collect her things. And that was tragic in itself. But
sadly, the story doesn't end there. 4 more of Woodside's family members, including his sister, uncle, and cousin, had to be hospitalized due to the virus. While they recovered, his 91-year-old grandfather, Frederick Glinton, his mother's father, did not survive.
My grandfather, he was a strong old man, because even though he passed away, he had 2 jobs. Up until the last point, he still was fighting till the last minute, and I guess his soul was willing, but then his body just couldn't go any further, you see.
According to the most recent government figures, 154 people have died from COVID-19 since March of this year, and an additional 28 deaths are under investigation. The majority of those deaths were during the second wave of the virus. Woodside had this advice for people.
Take this COVID thing serious. This ain't no joke, this ain't no game, this ain't no conspiracy theory.
Despite these dark days, there was a silver lining. The birth of Woodside's first child, a little girl. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. We've got a lot more news, but first, meteorologist Greg Thompson gives a first look at our weekday weather forecast. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm meteorologist Greg Thompson with your first look at weather. Outside our studios, we have a couple of showers out there. Partly cloudy to cloudy skies, temperatures in the low 80s, 82 degrees is our current temperature. Your winds are out of the southeast at 14 knots. Feels like temperature 82 degrees Fahrenheit. On our satellite view, we have Hurricane Ada now pulling up towards the north and west of Florida, dragging a trailing trough across the area. Some moisture associated with that system continuing to affect our area with some showers and thunderstorms. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come, more than 200 bodies still in the PMH morgue. Plus, a Grand Bahama environmentalist raises concerns over the cleanup of the oil spill caused by Dorian. Stay tuned.
Every day, these men and women put their lives on the line in the most advanced tactical combat units available. They work in areas of conflict and struggle, providing law enforcement and life-saving exercises. They are on the front lines.
Months after the health minister made a plea for families to collect the remains of their loved ones from the morgue at Princess Margaret Hospital due to overcrowding, over 200 bodies are still at the public morgue. Hospital Administrator Mary Walker says the issue creates a challenge.
We urge persons to make the necessary funeral arrangements for their loved ones because it is at capacity. I cannot speak to when and if the restrictions will be removed with respect to the burial of persons, but it is our urgent need that we address the overcrowding in the morgue.
Nearly 90% of the oil spilled at Equinor South Riding Point Terminal during the passage of Hurricane Dorian has still not been cleaned up, according to a Grand Bahama environmentalist who said at least 1/3 of the trees in the area have died in the wake of the spill. Jillian Gray has the story.
Images of these topless oil tanks after Dorian shook the environmental community. The thick black oil which was housed inside gushed out during the deadly storm, leaving a dark splatter of oil on the nearby green shrubbery. 1 year after the event, and environmentalists say not much has changed.
Because of COVID-19, because of Dorian, and because of certain things that could not be done, and I will give them excuse for that, it is only about 10% of that forest area that has been cleaned up, not even 10%. And they are still struggling inch by inch to clean it up.
Joe Darville said over that time that oil will begin to penetrate the water table. Equinor's South Riding Point terminal is hedged in on one side by forestry and wetlands, and on the other side the ocean. Last year, Environment Minister Ramal Ferreira said that only 1 goat and 3 birds were impacted by the oil spill. But Darville said 1 year on, and the devastation to land and sea can clearly be seen.
They could withstand fire, they could withstand oil, invasion of ocean, but they cannot stand oil. The oil penetrates into the heart of the palms and it kills them. And I would say probably 1/3 of that whole area. You could go out there and you could see the little fish trying to survive inside the pools of water that was actually like this here, with a sheen of oil on top of it.
The lagging cleanup of the oil spill is a clear indication of the government's negligence in demanding that the oil is removed, according to Darville, who added that if the environment is not protected, there will be nothing left for future generations.
They produce the most delectable little berries, and the birds love them. And that's why we got to protect our forests. If we don't do that, we will have no birds. So for God's sake, my Bahama land, come. You know, if not for yourself, realize that we got to leave something for our future generations.
That facility is not back to normal operations as yet, and according to Equinor's website, the company is continuing to monitor the 27 water wells dug after Dorian. The update, which was given at the beginning of the year, said there had been no signs of contamination of groundwater, and also no sign of the oil spill having any marine effect in the sea outside the terminal. They have also exported the remaining oil from the tanks and said that cleanup will continue. Reporting for Our News, I'm Julian Gray.
This segment brought to you by Grand Bahama Power.
Still to come, Samaritan's Purse winds down its operations in the Bahamas. Stay tuned.
Every day, these men and women put their lives on the line in the most advanced tactical combat units available. They work in areas of conflict and struggle, providing law enforcement and life-saving exercises. They are on the front lines.
You're watching Our News. Welcome back. After a month of lending crucial help to the Bahamas in the fight against COVID-19, Samaritan's Purse is saying farewell. The organization set up a 20-bed tent facility outside Princess Margaret Hospital that assisted with the management of COVID-19 cases. Hospital Administrator Mary Walker says their assistance to the Bahamas certainly is appreciated.
I simply wish to say thank you and Godspeed to the Samaritan's Purse team for once again proving to be true friends in Christ and by the grace of God.
We are very grateful for the beautiful collaboration that we have had with Princess Margaret Hospital, both with setting up our field hospital here and treating over 40 patients, as well as training over 1,000 healthcare professionals in infection prevention control measures.
Samaritan's Purse is no stranger to the Bahamas, having jumped in to assist on Grand Bahama immediately after Hurricane Dorian. During its short stint at PMH, several local healthcare professionals say the assistance and training offered by the organization was invaluable.
Very pleasant, very kind, and most importantly, they were also our brothers and sisters in Christ. They sure did bring not only a human touch, they attempted to heal both physically, mentally, and most important, spiritually.
And the collaboration with the nurses and the team from the Samaritan Purse and myself, we were able to exchange ideas, we were able to talk over circumstances, and then we were able to marry the two.
Still to come, how senior government officials observed Remembrance Day. Plus, a look at your Cable Bahamas Business Solution Market Recap. Stay tuned.
Every day, these men and women put their lives on the line in the most advanced tactical combat units available. They work in areas of conflict and struggle, providing law enforcement and life-saving exercises. They are on the front lines.
Governor General C.A. Smith and Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis were among the dignitaries who paid their respects to those who fought and died in the line of duty during World Wars I and II. The wreath laying comes as Commonwealth countries observed Remembrance Day.
The first Remembrance Day was on the 11th of November, 1921. And that was 2 years after the ending of World War I. Since then, all countries in the empire set aside this day to remember those lives that were lost in both World Wars I and World War II.
Smith, Minnis, and others laid wreaths in the Garden of Remembrance. According to Chairman and Treasurer of the Bahamas branch of the British Legion, Adina Munro Charlo, the Bahamas sent 750 men to fight in World War I. 6 of those men died while the rest returned home. In World War II, the Bahamas committed 300 men and 5 of them died in combat.
We would have 7 registered World War II veterans surviving and 1 female veteran. And so we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the ending of World War II today.
And that's a look at news. We throw it back to meteorologist Greg Thompson for the extended weather forecast.
Thanks, Kyle. Our second look at weather tonight. We take a look at our satellite picture around the area. We have Hurricane Ada still out there, churning across the Gulf of Mexico, just to the west of central Florida. Showers and thunderstorms associated with that system pulling up towards the north and affecting the islands here in the Bahamas. The National Hurricane Center is now also watching another area in the eastern Caribbean that has a very high chance for some formation over the next couple of days. Your boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. Winds will be out of the east to southeast, 15 to 25 knots. We have a small craft advisory posted. Winds will be 4 to 6 feet over the ocean, but up to 10 feet. Low tide will be at 10:49 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Monday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a great night, everyone.
And now your Cable Bahamas Business Solutions Market Recap takes a look at today's markets.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by Cable Bahamas Business Solutions, the experts for all your business needs. This has been your Financial Market Minute. Cable Bahamas Business Solutions, giving you trusted solutions that work for you and your business. Contact us today.
Well, thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Kyle Walkini. We will see you right back here tomorrow night, but stay tuned for an address by Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. Have a good evening, Bahamas.